Sex is fun. We know this because it's something most of us look forward to doing. There are proven health benefits from having sex, but can too much sex cause you to die? How much is too much? The answer to these questions might just save your life. Too much of a good thing can be bad for you. This includes sex. There are some things to keep in mind when being intimate with your partner. Obviously, you should always communicate clearly, and sex should be something both parties enjoy. If you don't know if your partner is enjoying sex as much as you are, then ask. If you don't know what your partner likes or dislikes, ask. If you don't know exactly what you are doing during sex, ask. It's okay to not know something about your sexual partner, but communicating has been shown to increase the pleasure for both participants. That being said, if you and your partner enjoy having sex all of the time, what are the downsides? And how much sex can you have before it becomes life-threatening? First, let's start with the negative side effects. Sex has many benefits, but can be painful sometimes. This is especially true when two people have a lot of sex in a short amount of time. Sex takes a lot of energy, and most of the time causes an increase in heart rate, muscle activity, and sweating. Therefore, you can kind of think of sex as a really fun workout. Just like when you're working out at a gym, you need to stay hydrated and not overextend yourself. Otherwise, you could pull a muscle. In extreme circumstances, you might get a really bad cramp or a charley horse, which can be incredibly uncomfortable even during the pleasures of sex. When you sweat a lot, your body loses water and nutrients. Every time you have sex, you probably break a sweat, which means you should be hydrating before and after. When you sweat, the fluids lost need to be replaced. If they're not, your body could become dehydrated. It would be incredibly difficult to dehydrate yourself to death solely from having sex. However, if you tried really hard, you could probably do it. Besides overall dehydration, there could be dryness of specific areas of the body that are frequently used when having sex. In particular, this thing can happen to the vagina. Both men and women can and should get pleasure from sex. However, the female genitalia can get dry from prolonged and frequent friction during intercourse. When this happens, micro tears can occur in the vagina, resulting in discomfort and, if not properly treated, serious pain. Other painful side effects can occur if the female can't replace the fluids that serve as natural lubricants due to dehydration. This is not uncommon after long bouts of sex for females to have chafing, irritation, or rashes to develop on and around the vagina. If you're engaging in a lot of sexual activity, it may be good to use a lubricant to ensure that the pleasure continues for everyone. On the male side of things, ejaculation can begin to take its toll on the male body if it happens over and over again. Having a lot of sex over the course of a weekend could cause sore testes. Overexertion of any body part, including genitalia, can cause discomfort. However, these things will not kill you. If you're going to be having lots of sex in a short amount of time, just make sure to take rest breaks, stay hydrated, and use a lubricant. A lot of lubricant. Another negative side effect of having too much sex could be a UTI. UTI stands for urinary tract infection. At a very basic level, a UTI is when bacteria that's not supposed to be in the urinary tract gets into it and starts multiplying. This can happen in the urethra, bladder, or in more serious cases, the kidneys. UTIs normally are just extremely uncomfortable, but in severe cases, they can be dangerous. That's why if you have a UTI, you should go to the doctor and get antibiotics to kill the infection. UTIs can occur as a result of sex if you get too dehydrated, so this is another reason to drink lots of fluids if you plan on having a lot of sex. However, there is something else to keep in mind to reduce the risks of getting a UTI or other infections. As fluids from the male or the female enter the vagina, it can cause the natural pH levels to become unbalanced. This can also lead to infections or discomfort. Imbalance of pH levels can also occur in the male urethra when there are multiple ejaculations over a short period of time. In order to reduce these risks, both males and females should go to the bathroom following sex. This flushes the urinary system and helps remove fluids that have entered these areas during intercourse. It's important to note that it does not matter your sexual preference, whether you're straight, gay, polyamorous, or anything else. If you're having lots and lots of sex, you're susceptible to all of the discomforts that can become associated with such a lifestyle. Again, a UTI and unbalanced pH most likely won't kill you. However, it's not completely impossible that you could die from a really bad infection or extreme dehydration, but this probably isn't your biggest concern in terms of what could kill you from having too much sex. You and your partner will definitely want to take care of your bodies to reduce discomfort and have a pleasurable experience, but you probably don't have to worry about dying from sex quite yet. Research around deaths during sex has led to some interesting findings. One surprising statistic has come up again and again in different research studies. A very high percentage of men who die during sex are engaging in adulterous behavior. In other words, men who are engaging in extramarital sexual activity naturally have a higher death rate during sex than men who are faithful in having sex with only their spouse. Now, this is not because the male's partner walks in on him having sex with someone else and murders him. Instead, it has to do with other physical conditions that we'll discuss later. But the fact remains, men who died during sex were more often than not cheating on their significant other. In some studies, the number of cheaters in sex-related deaths could be as high as 82 to 93% of the total cases. And these numbers are consistent around the world, suggesting that being an adulterer anywhere comes with an increased risk of dying during sex. In a study in Japan that looked at 34 deaths during sex, 80% of them were men who died while having sex outside of their marriage. In Korea, a research study in 2006 found that 93% of cases involved adultery. Another study in 2006 at Goethe University Frankfurt in Germany recorded that out of 68 men who died during sex, 10 of them died with their mistress and 39 died while having sex with a prostitute. This means that almost 75% of the total number of sex-related deaths in the study were adulterers. So why is having a lot of sex outside of your relationship more dangerous than with your partner? It seems very unlikely that the high percentages of sex-related deaths by adulterers across different parts of the world are just random coincidences. In these adulterous relationships, the lover might be much younger than the adulterer. This may not be surprising, as men who engage in sexual activity outside of marriage or a relationship tend to be older, and their sexual preferences probably aren't aligned to their age group. As mentioned before, sex can be taxing on the body. A lot of calories are burnt and a lot of fluids are lost, and it can be comparable to working out. So if one of the participants is severely out of shape or is older, this can increase the odds of death during sex. In terms of adulterers, something else might play a role in the high sex-related death rates. It may not be the physical toll the act of sex is taking on the body, but the mental toll. A study from the University of Florence in 2011 found something very interesting in the 1,700 people that participated in their study. People who were having sex outside of their marriage or relationship had almost twice the amount of cardiovascular disease as those who were monogamous and faithful. The conclusion of the study was that deceiving your partner sexually could lead to a sense of guilt. This psychological burden could increase stress levels and may be connected to a higher risk of cardiovascular complications. Up to this point, it would seem that the safest way to have lots of sex is to make sure to take care of your body, stay hydrated, and don't cheat on your partner. So, what actually causes death of people during sex, and how much sex puts you at risk of dying? The most common reason that someone dies during sex is because of a heart attack. This is not surprising because of the sudden and increased physical activity that occurs during sex. If you go from a state of relaxation to having sex, your body needs to exert a lot of energy. In order for you to maintain a high amount of energy, your heart needs to pump blood quickly around the body. If your heart can't handle the strenuous activity, it could lead to a heart attack. Can too much sex kill you? Yes, it can, but only under very specific conditions. Studies found that people are 2.7 times more likely to have a heart attack during or immediately following sex than when they are not engaged in strenuous activity. How do you protect yourself from a heart attack-induced death during sex? You need to take care of your body and exercise regularly. Death during sex usually occurs in people who are overweight, older, or do not exercise. This is because having sex is taxing when done right, and it takes a lot of energy. Just like with other forms of exercising, you're more likely to get injured if you try to do too much too fast. If you're planning on having a lot of sex and you've not exercised in a very long time, you should begin exercising immediately. Sex is not always planned, so if you're having surprise sex and do not live the healthiest lifestyle, make sure to start slow, drink lots of fluids, and don't overexert on the first go. If you do find yourself planning to have lots of sex, there are risks involved if you're not in relatively good health. Experts recommend that people who do not live the healthiest lifestyle and want to improve should begin an exercise program slowly and gradually and increase intensity over time. The same advice goes for people who do not have a lot of sex and want to start having more. Start slow and work your way up to avoid cardiac arrest during sex. Can too much sex kill you? Yes, it can, but most likely it won't, unless you're reaching an older age or already have serious health issues. If you're in these categories, you should always exercise more to decrease your chances of a heart attack during sex. Experts also warn that it is possible to have too much sex. Normally, when two people do this, it is to avoid conflict, or having to do things that they do not like to do, like cleaning the house or getting work done. If sex is getting in the way of your other responsibilities in life, maybe dial it back a notch. If you're having lots of sex and have no problems with getting everything done, good for you. Just remember that death via heart attack from too much sex can occur. So keep up the healthy lifestyle, always stay hydrated, and don't be afraid to take a break once in a while. Now watch What is Sexsomnia? Sex Sleep Disease, or check out what happens to your body while you're having sex.